It was a dark, foggy morning on May 24th, 1941, off the cold and restless coast of Iceland. The gray ocean rolled beneath heavy clouds, waves breaking against the hull of the German battleship Bismarck. Inside the bridge, Task Force Commander Günther Lütjens stood silently, gazing into the endless mist. A seasoned naval officer, strict, methodical, and often unreadable, he was a man who rarely allowed emotion to surface. Yet beneath that stoic expression, tension gnawed at him. He was commanding the most feared warship in the world, entrusted with a mission that could strike a powerful blow to Britain's lifeline at sea. His orders were simple but perilous. Reach the Atlantic undetected and destroy Allied cargo convoys supplying Britain's war effort. The Bismarck, flagship of the German Navy, was a floating fortress, heavily armed, nearly unsinkable, and a symbol of German naval pride. But even for a man as experienced as Lütjens, the task ahead carried a sense of foreboding. The Royal Navy's vast presence in the North Atlantic meant that every mile forward brought greater risk. Despite commanding the most formidable battleship afloat, Lütjens felt the odds pressing against him. The Royal Navy had overwhelming numbers, and his small task force operated at only half the strength originally planned. Every officer on the bridge could feel the quiet unease. They had already encountered enemy vessels twice, and their hope of slipping into the Atlantic unseen was fading fast. The hydrophones now detected faint sounds, deep rhythmic echoes in the distance, the unmistakable presence of large ships. The crew knew what that meant. They weren't alone anymore. The fog that once promised concealment now felt like a trap waiting to close. Lütjens stood rigid, his eyes fixed on the dark horizon. For a moment, the only sounds were the low hum of the engines and the distant crash of waves. Everyone knew interception was inevitable. It was just a matter of when the enemy would appear. Moments later, the stillness was broken. The signal officer's voice cut through the tension. "Smoke trails spotted on the horizon, sir." All eyes turned forward. Through the haze, faint plumes of smoke rose against the gray sky. The dreaded encounter had begun. Lütjens gave a single, steady command. "Call the crew to battle stations." Within seconds, alarms echoed throughout the ship. Men sprinted through narrow corridors, boots pounding on steel decks as gun crews raced to their stations. The calm of the morning was shattered by the clanging of hatches and the thundering footsteps of sailors readying for combat. From the mist, two enormous silhouettes emerged. The British battleships, HMS Prince of Wales and HMS Hood, the pride of the Royal Navy. The distance closed rapidly, 26 kilometers and shrinking, when the first flashes of British gunfire split the darkness. The Battle of Legends had begun. Enormous shells whistled through the air, crashing into the sea around Prince Eugen, Bismarck's escort. Water towers erupted skyward as the ocean boiled under the impact. Captain Ernst Lindemann turned sharply to his superior. "Permission to open fire?" he asked. Lütjens remained silent, calculating every possible option. Perhaps he thought there was still a chance to outrun them, but each passing second made that hope fade. Another barrage rained down, closer this time, shaking the deck beneath their feet. Lindemann repeated more urgently, "Permission to open fire?" Lütjens exhaled slowly. There was no more time for strategy. "Open fire," he said. Bismarck's massive 15-inch guns thundered to life, the entire ship trembling as the shells tore across the sky. The sea lit up in a blinding display of fire and fury as the duel began in earnest. Bismarck and her escort traded devastating blows with the British fleet. Salvos from both sides illuminated the horizon like flashes of lightning. The Prinz Eugen scored a hit on HMS Hood, igniting a fire that the British crew quickly contained. Then came Bismarck's fifth salvo, a shot that would echo through history. One of her shells pierced the Hood's deck, detonating the ship's aft magazines. In an instant, a towering column of flame shot skyward, followed by a thunderous explosion that tore the mighty battlecruiser in two. In mere moments, the pride of the Royal Navy was gone, taking more than 1,400 men with her. A stunned silence fell across Bismarck's bridge before it was broken by cautious cheers from the crew below. For them, it was a moment of triumph, proof that their ship was truly unstoppable. But Lütjens did not smile. With cold precision, he gave his next order. Concentrate fire on the Prince of Wales. There was no time for celebration. The guns turned toward the next enemy. Bismarck's shells roared again, striking the Prince of Wales and forcing her to retreat, trailing smoke and damage. Yet victory came at a cost. Bismarck herself had been hit, her floatplane crane shattered, parts of her hull pierced, and vital compartments flooding. Oil poured into the sea, leaving a dark trail that could betray her position. Captain Lindemann urged pursuit, but Lütjens refused. His mission was not to engage unnecessarily. His duty now was to survive. The crew worked tirelessly to assess the damage, but repairs could not be made without slowing down. To stop meant certain destruction. Lütjens knew that British cruisers were following at a distance, waiting for reinforcements. The Bismarck, once a hunter, had become the hunted. Realizing the ship could no longer continue the Atlantic raid, Lütjens made a difficult choice. He ordered Prince Eugen to separate and continue the mission alone, while Bismarck turned toward the French port of Saint-Nazaire for repairs. He sent a coded message to Berlin. Battle cruiser, probably Hood, sunk. Another battleship turned away damaged. 2 heavy cruisers maintained contact. The message, though triumphant, betrayed their location. High above, a British Sunderland flying boat spotted the trail of oil stretching across the sea and reported the position. Instantly, the Royal Navy mobilized every available ship to intercept. The hunter's triumph had become a beacon for his enemies. As the weather worsened, Lütjens ordered Prince Eugen to detach and slip away into the storm. The 2 ships parted ways, each crew unaware that this would be their final farewell. That evening, the low drone of aircraft engines grew louder. "Incoming planes, Admiral!" came the alarm. Swordfish torpedo bombers appeared out of the clouds, flying dangerously low. Anti-aircraft guns blazed, filling the sky with streaks of tracer fire. Yet the fragile biplanes danced through the storm of shells untouched. Torpedoes splashed into the sea, speeding toward their target. One struck Bismarck along her armor belt, causing little immediate damage, but the violent evasive maneuvers dislodged earlier repair mats, reopening critical leaks. Water poured in again, forcing the ship to slow. That brief reduction in speed would prove fatal, giving the British fleet the time it needed to close the gap. For a few hours, fortune seemed to return to the Germans. The British lost radar contact while avoiding German submarines, and the Atlantic once again fell silent. But Lütjens, believing he was still being tracked, kept sending radio updates, each transmission allowing the British to triangulate his position. Unknowingly, he was leading his pursuers right to him. By the morning of May 26th, a Catalina reconnaissance plane spotted the oil-slicked trail once more. That night, the Swordfish bombers returned for a second attack. Despite the barrage of anti-air fire, they pressed in courageously. The outdated biplanes were too slow for Bismarck's advanced fire control systems to target effectively. Then came 2 torpedo impacts, one harmless amidships, but the other slammed directly into the rudders, jamming them solid. The great battleship was crippled. She could still move, but only in slow, helpless circles. Through the night, engineers fought desperately to free the rudders. Sparks flew, welders toiled, and exhaustion spread among the crew. They managed to free one rudder, but it was not enough. Lütjens radioed one final report. The ship was unmaneuverable. The reality sank in. They were trapped in the open Atlantic, surrounded and alone. At 1 a.m. on May 27th, the Admiral sent his last transmission. "We will fight to the last, believing in you, my Führer, and with rock-hard faith in Germany's victory." The mood on board darkened. Many sailors wrote quick letters, others stood silently on deck, staring into the black waves. British destroyers circled in the darkness, firing occasional shells to remind them of what was coming. At dawn, HMS Rodney and HMS King George V appeared on the horizon. The alarm sounded once more. Exhausted but defiant, the crew took their stations. The British opened fire, their shells landing closer with every salvo. Bismarck returned fire bravely, but with her steering jammed, accuracy was nearly impossible. Then, a massive shell from Rodney struck the forward superstructure, obliterating the bridge and killing Admiral Lütjens and his command staff instantly. Even leaderless, the crew refused to surrender. Secondary officers kept the guns firing, though many barrels were destroyed or jammed. The ship was a burning inferno, torn apart by relentless bombardment. By 9:30 a.m., Bismarck's guns fell silent for the last time. Now defenseless, the once mighty battleship drifted amid the smoke and flame. The Chief of Damage Control gave the final, heartbreaking order. Set the scuttling charges. Abandon ship. Sailors leapt into the freezing Atlantic as explosions rocked the vessel. By 10 hours a.m., the Bismarck, pride of the Kriegsmarine and terror of the seas, rolled slowly and slipped beneath the waves. The Atlantic swallowed her whole. Out of more than 2,200 men who served aboard, only 114 were rescued from the icy water. The loss of the Bismarck marked not only the end of a ship, but the end of Germany's dream of naval supremacy. Her name, however, would live forever, etched in history as both a triumph and a tragedy of war. If you enjoyed this film, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our latest historical documentaries. Every week, we bring you new stories of courage, strategy, and the moments that changed the world. Thank you for watching.